Good day, one and all, and to one and all, a good day. My name is Lewis, also known as Speedy, welcoming you to, at long last, episode 10 of the Speedy Stuff Podcast. Um, First things first with this episode, I would like to apologise profusely for the lack of content that has been going up on both the podcast channel and my main channel. Excuse me. I've just been really busy with real world stuffs, and basically this episode is going to be sort of explaining what I've been busy with and how busy I've been with it, and with any luck, I hope you guys will understand. If you do, then I'm incredibly grateful. If you don't, then, well, I've apologised. What more do you want? Anyway, so yeah, I just actually went back and checked episode 9 of the podcast, or, well, for season 1 of the podcast, December 2017. Yeah. December 2017, December the 5th, 2017, to be precise. It's been, what, about 16 months, give or take? And, yeah, I owe you all a mahoosive explanation. So, this was the dealio, dog. Wow, I need to stop trying to be hip. Anyway, pardon. Let me think. So, yeah. Episode 9 of season 1 of the podcast goes live. Now, at the time, I was in a part-time job with Royal Mail. I have mentioned my part-time positioning with Royal Mail prior to now, I think. Don't quote me on that. And so that happened. That went on until about the end of December that year. And then January 2018, I had as a kind of sort of a break, so to speak, because then February that year I got another job, this time for a janitor company called AQS, and what they do is they're they're a janitorial company who just so happen to have a contract with the Principality Stadium here in Cardiff. And so I was basically a third-party janitor for the Principality Stadium, which is a massive venue. You know, they hold the Six Nation rugby tournaments down there. They've had concerts down there. Whenever Monster Jammers come to the UK, they've come to Cardiff, except for this year, where I know they're doing their first proper UK tour, which is really cool. So that happened, and in fact, speaking of Monster Jam, May 2018, May the 19th, 2019, I think it was. 2018, I apologise. I was actually down the Principality Stadium, not working, but to actually see the Monster Jam show, which was brilliant. Morgan Kane was driving Gravedigger, my favourite truck. He won the freestyle at the end. He went up, did his interview, which they showed on the massive jumbotrons, and he showed that under his fire suit he was wearing a Welsh Rugby Union rugby jersey, which caused everyone in the stadium to lose their shit. It really honestly did. That was brilliant. That is something that'll stick with me for the rest of my days, I hope. And then what happened? And then sort of late May, mid-June, I had to give that job up. Not because I wasn't enjoying it or because the pay wasn't decent, but it was the hours they were asking us to do. You know, some shifts they were asking us to start at 11 in the night and then finish at about 3, 4, maybe even 5 o'clock the following morning. Now, I was getting minimum wage for this job, which is all fine and dandy. I think it was like £7.50 an hour. But the problem is that at those times, for a taxi, for me to get me from the Principality Stadium back home, I would have thrown away about 2 hours worth of wages. On top of that as well, I didn't have anyone readily available to pick me up at that time, and I don't drive. I've got a provisional license, but I've never taken a driving test. I've never sat a driving theory. Although I will admit I am still heavily attempting to. I'm still trying to let my mum. Oh well, I'm trying to persuade my mum that there are upsides to me owning a motorbike over a car, and I think she's warming to it. My dad says that she's warming to the concept of it, albeit very slowly. I don't know. Put it this way. This time next year, I'll either have a motorbike or I won't. Play it by ear. Excuse me. I've been ill recently. I've been ill. With an early summer cold, and as a result, a real nasty cough. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So, having given up the job with AQS, I then went to, and I'm still going to, Cardiff and Vale College. I'm back in college. And this is where a majority of my time has been gone for the past year, as of the last week of August 2018. I've been back in college on a level 3 film and creative media course, and the end goal is for me to potentially become a cameraman with either the BBC or ITV or something like that. Pardon. And that's basically where I've been for like the past year or so. I'm only able to record this episode of the podcast today because today is one of the few days in the week that I have off from the course. I'd say it's going pretty well, to be honest. I would say it's going pretty well. Met a lot of good people there. Some are better than others, obviously. Some are questionable. Like, for example, the other week, we were watching a documentary that I've been wanting to see for the past 9 years, a documentary called Senna, which, for those of you who don't know, is a documentary about the life of Formula 1 driver Ayrton Senna. And it was something that I've been wanting to see for ages. But what I didn't realise when we went and saw it in class a couple of Fridays back, I was sitting on the front row of the class to watch it. On the row behind me, albeit on the opposite end, I didn't know the reincarnations of the Three Stooges were sitting there. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to get my ass handed to me, but they know who they are, and it was incredibly infuriating. It really honestly was. They kept making all these snide comments and all these snide remarks, which of course, excuse me, which of course only these three found funny. Everyone else didn't. So surely, at that point, boys, surely that would have been a good enough hint for you to have shut the fuck up. Because honestly, it's a funny old world. Anyway, pardon. That's the plan. Although I will admit there's actually one itty bitty detail that I've skipped out on, mainly for the fact that I wanted to bring it up a bit later. June 2018, this was when I was between this janitor job and me going to college, I travelled to Bristol. And I went and saw a band live called Mount Desolation. And for those of you who don't know who Mount Desolation are, they're basically a mashup group of members of the band Mumford and Sons, and a band that I hold near and dear to my heart. A little band, I don't know if any of you will have heard of them, called Keane. and it's basically Keane's pianist, Tim Rice-Oxley, and their bass player, Jess Quinn, with a couple of members of Mumford & Sons. And I went and saw them live because they had released their first album in 8 years. They had been on an 8-year hiatus, and they had finally released some new material, and I thought, yes, I've got to go and see them. In fact, I'm looking up right now from where I'm sitting, and I actually have my ticket from when I went and saw them, not only laminated, but signed by not only Tim and Jess, but their opening act as well, who, at the time of recording this, I'm actually going to see live in a couple of days' time, which is really cool. I'm actually interviewing him as part of the college course as well, for a module that we're doing in college, which is going to be fucking amazing. With I'll try and get the interview up. If I don't, then I apologise. If I do, then I hope you enjoy watching it in advance. And on that day, actually, I think was it a Thursday? Let me check the ticket a minute. Was it a Thursday, yay or nay? It was a Tuesday. I look like an idiot. It was a Tuesday. Anyway, but yeah, on that Tuesday as well, prior to me going to the venue, I stopped off somewhere where I've always wanted to go. I stopped off at somewhere that I thought I wanted to work at once upon a time, and to be perfectly honest, I still do. I stopped off at York Towers. Yeah. I went to the headquarters of the Yogscast. I didn't go in because I was nervous. The idea was for me to go there and hand them my CV, to be honest, in the vague hope that they would take me on board as a content creator. And I just got far too nervous to press the little intercom buzzer and go, "Hiya, can you let me in? I want a job." I just got too nervous. And then, fuck me, who do I meet across the road but Tom and Ben, or as they call themselves whenever they play Trouble in Terrorist Town, Sharky and Palp. And I got to talk with them, and it was amazing. That's something that's going to stick with me till the day I die. And then, I kid you not, about 5 minutes later, I got to meet Lewis Brindley from the Yogscast as well, that was cool. That was really cool. And then what happened afterwards? Fast forward then to November. What date was it actually? Because I've still got the ticket for this as well. Wednesday, November the 7th. Going back to the concert I mentioned earlier in Bristol with Mount Desolation, I said that their two lead vocalists, Tim and Jess, were former members of the band Keane. Well, their lead vocalist, a fella called Tom Chaplin, he did a concert at the London Palladium for a little segment on BBC Radio 2 called Friday Night is Music Night, where he performed the songs of Queen. It was my first time going to London, and it was definitely worth it because it was amazing. They had 2,500 tickets to sell, and they all sold. All 2,500 tickets for this show sold, and it was an absolutely fantastic night. It really honestly was. I've still got all the footage for it on my phone, actually. I've been meaning to edit it together and upload it for donkeys now, actually. But yeah, that was great. That was an absolutely spectacular night. I managed to record it because obviously this was a pre-recorded thing for them to play. They actually played it on BBC Radio 2 in February, and I managed to record it off the BBC Radio 2 TV station, which was pretty cool. And it turns out, later this month, funny enough, I think it might actually be... No, it's not. It's not next Friday. Let me think. It's April 4th now. It's on the 19th, which is not this Friday coming or the Friday after, but the Friday after that. He's actually doing a tour of his Friday Night is Music Night set, and his first stop is Cardiff. And guess who's going to see him again? With special guest, his mum! Yeah, me and my mum are going to go and see it, and I'm so looking forward to it. But yeah. Pardon me. But yeah, point is that that's predominantly the reason why the podcast has been as inactive as it was. I did actually have an episode 10 draft that discussed this at a far earlier date, and it was actually going to be uploaded for the first year anniversary of the podcast, and for reasons even I cannot fathom, I never got around to it. I never got around to it for reasons that even I cannot fathom, and I apologise profusely for it. But yeah, so with any luck, as I say, installment 1 of Season 2 of the Speedy Stuff Podcast, I'm calling them installments as of Season 2 to try and be a bit different. Installment 1 of Season 2 of the Speedy Stuff Podcast should be with you all sort of May, June, July at the latest. And with any luck, unlike the entirety of Season 1, for Season 2, because I now have contacts in my media class who also have YouTube channels, with any luck, I'll actually have some of them on board as guests, as guest speakers, which I'm really looking forward to, actually. So there's not really a huge amount left for me to say. Although, actually, no. Having said that, there's one more thing that I want to discuss, and it is, funny enough, about Season 2 of the podcast. Season 2 of the podcast is actually going to be doubling its audience range, and by that what I mean is originally the first season of the podcast was uploaded to my main YouTube channel and the podcast channel. They're still going to be uploaded to both the main channel and the podcast channel for Season 2, but I'm also going to try something a bit different, something that I'm quite very nervous about trying. And what that something is I'm going to try and turn it into what I had in my mind originally as the Speedy Stuff Podcast, which was a sort of more radio show-esque vibe. So for Season 2, it's actually going to be uploaded to both SoundCloud and Spotify, as well as both the podcast channel and my main channel here on YouTube. And what I'm looking to do with it, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give too much away, but with what I'm looking to do with it, with any luck, touch wood, I won't get slapped up the arse with a copyright strike from either SoundCloud or Spotify for what I'm looking to do with it. I mean, you know, put it this way. It'll either work or it won't. It's literally a case of 6 of one, half dozen the other. So, yeah, as I say, it'll either work or it won't. If it does work, that's brilliant. If it doesn't, well, you can't blame me for trying. Is there anything else? Just quickly off the top of my head. Let me think. I've explained where I've been. I've explained what I've been doing. I've explained what's coming up in relation to the podcast. No, I think that's about it. So yeah, there we go. That is pretty much it for this, the third and final? Excuse me. The wow, I ballsed up there spectacularly. The final episode of Season 1 of the Speedy Stuff Podcast. As I say, from season 2 onwards, I'm going to be calling them installments as opposed to episodes because I'm trying to be a bit different. So yeah, here's hoping that season 2 works the way I've thought it through. And until then, this has been Lewis, also known as Speedy, on behalf of Terrier Productions and Mach 5 Productions, saying thank you all so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard with the first season of the podcast. If you have, please do make sure to subscribe. Make sure to ding the old notification bell if you do as well. Leave some thoughts and suggestions for topics in the comments section. And yeah, until season 2 of the podcast and whatever projects come my way, thank you all so much for listening. Take care of yourselves.